Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So, if you watched my Concertina accordion journal video last week, you'll know that I had a bit of a debate with myself because I've been keeping this, I would say, in a certain kind of style. And last week I did a page that seemed entirely different from the rest. And I don't know why, but I just got myself into a bit of a, is it suitable to go in or is it not suitable to go in? The funny thing is, I woke up the morning after I'd uploaded the video, so the day the video was going live, and I thought, of course it can go in. It's what I felt like doing that day. That's what came out that day. This is a journal that's growing week by week, so why wouldn't I include it just because I feel it looks a little bit different? So I asked you the question and a lot of you responded, and thanks ever so much for that. And most of you said exactly the same. Put it in. You did think it matched because I had carried over the stenciling and that kind of thing. And you basically said the same thing. It's what came out on that day. A couple of people thought differently, and that's fine. I absolutely respect that as well, because the dilemma was real and minor. You know, in the grand scheme of things, minor, but it felt real. But, you know, when I look back at some of the other pages, okay, colour-wise, it doesn't exactly go with that. But, you know, when I look back to the likes of here, it's not terribly different, other than it's got a very much a painted focal point. So, I haven't got round to attaching it yet. I will do that either at the end of this video or we'll see how today's goes, and I might attach a couple together. I did have this flattened quite by mistake. I had put a few things on top of it, and actually it's helped it, and I would quite like to maybe scan it, so we'll see what's what. Anyway, long introduction to this week's video. So let's see where today takes us. I'm going to start my usual way with this piece of scrapbook paper cut down to, I think, was it 4 by 5? 4.5 by 5.5? Let me check. Yeah, so it's 4 by 5, just a nice size, and you know, you can see that this is chunking up already, and you know, hopefully if I get all 52 weeks done, it's going to look great. So those that have joined in with me, thanks for doing that, and you know, hope you will all get some inspiration from this week's. Not quite sure where I'm going, lots of ideas to play out in this journal, so yeah, let's take it away, and I'll switch over to doing a voiceover. Okay, so we're on double speed now. I've got a couple of failed gel prints here. Many of you will recognise that second one in terms of what happens when your gel print, when the paper sticks to your gel plate. But, you know, I'm going to salvage what I can from it. So here I am just roughly measuring the size of my base card. Don't know why I'm moving it about. I'm saying roughly. Seem to get a bit too exact here, but never mind. But just going to use this one as the first kind of layer of collage, just to help thicken up that sheet of scrapbooking paper. And as I've said before, I'm simply using the scrapbooking paper because it's not going to get used otherwise, so I'd rather put it to some use. And most of them are designs that I'm not going to use for anything else. So just going to use the lid of that little tub for my matte medium, and I'm going to start gluing the papers down, one on each side. So the gel print pages were actually just printer paper, computer paper, whatever you want to call it. So you can actually see it being absorbed pretty much into that. So I needed a fair amount. I'll put some on the piece of scrapbooking paper as well. It just usually means that if you do both sides, they adhere that bit better. I think that there was a stencil from PM Artist Studio. I can't remember the name of it, but if you wanted to know you can certainly let me know and I'll find out for you. As I say, that was a failed gel print. I think I'd just been probably using up some paint or something that day, so it didn't come out very clear. But as I've said before, nothing like that goes to waste. I just put it to the side, knowing that at some point in time it will probably have some use. So I didn't get a video done last Wednesday. I was still kind of feeling the effects of the migraine that I'd had the week before. It just left me very tired and kind of washed out, and I was quite busy with a number of other things, so I just didn't get round to making the video. The day I was going to, I was just really tired, and to be honest, I took a nap instead and probably felt the better for that. But hoping to have 3 videos next week. So now that I've got that base collage layered down, I'm just going to take some pieces out of this one. I loved the colours in this. This also has a PM Artist Studio stencil featured in it. It's difficult to see again, but it's I think it's Polynesian it's called. Again, if it was one you were interested in, then do let me know. I did use it for a project that I did when I did a swap with Kerry the Crafter, so I'll link that below and you can see more clearly how I used that stencil on another project, but it's actually one of my favourites from PM Artist Studio. Love the colours on there. The sort of green colour I think is a metallic, and it's quite interesting because it kind of acts as a resist later on in my process. But I'm just kind of putting, I think it's about 3 little bits, just spreading them out. I didn't feel the need to cover the whole card with another layer. Some weeks I've been doing kind of 3 layers of collage, and other weeks less. So even although this had been a failed gel print and half of it had obviously been left on the gel plate, I liked the shapes of the paint that was actually left on the paper. So that's all I'm trying to do here, is to kind of tear around that. Now, although there's white edges, I know at this point that will be covered up, so that doesn't concern me. And I wasn't going to sit and cut that out by any means. So I give it a quick dry before turning over to the other side, and I'm going to take 3 more pieces of this kind of red and metallic green print. It's got some lovely markings on it when I look at it now. It's a pity the whole thing didn't work out, because I think it could have been quite nice, but that's the way of gel printing sometimes. Just going to put a straight edge along that because I'm going to put it along the edge of the card, and I may as well cut it now as at the end. Just looking at the way that I think they best fit in. There's no right or wrong answer to that. If you were doing something like that, you just go with what you feel looks right to you. Other people would think different. That's fine. But you go with what you feel is right. So again, just gluing these down with the matte medium. I think I've said before, I don't use a glue stick on these because I do use a lot of medium on top, quite wet medium by way of ink and spraying water, and I just sometimes feel that if it was a glue stick it might not hold. So as well, using a glue like this to begin with. And again, I give that a quick dry. So I'm bringing out some cherry red Dr. P.H. Martin's ink now. This is really bright, really vivid. I'd used it recently on something. Can't remember what it was now. May have been my Monday morning meditative art, whatever I'm calling it. I'll link all of that below as well, the playlist. Spreading it out a bit. Taking my brush and just spreading it a bit further. Really just trying to get a base layer of colour going across all the collage. You'll see I'm holding onto it with my palette knife there. That's because I actually spilt a lot of this ink the other week there, and by the time I'd cleaned it up, my hands were just terribly stained, and it actually took days to get the colour out of my hand. So I was trying not to get quite as much on me this week. I should say though that this ink does say that it's non-toxic. I did check that on the back. Another thing that I sometimes tell people, though I cannot tell a lie, I did not have it on today, but I sometimes wear something called Art Guard. It's a Winsor & Newton product, and you rub it in kind of like a hand cream, and it's supposed to help protect your hands a bit. I don't know how well it does it, you know, but I often forget to put it on. Going now for some indigo. I just wanted to change the colour of that just a little bit. I liked the cherry red, but just wanted to add some of the indigo for a bit more interest. Not a lot on there, and it will dry lighter, of course. If I left it just like that, I would probably get a slightly darker look, slightly more intense, but you know, sometimes it is a time issue. You know, I don't have the time always to sit and wait for stuff like that to sit and dry. And I must admit, I quite actually enjoy using the heat tool and moving the ink about with the heat tool. You never quite know where it's going to go. You can try and direct it, but you never quite know. And, you know, that's often part of the fun. I don't mind if it goes right off, and you'll see that I sometimes actually let it run off. And I'll just put the other side of the card right down on that, because that will pick it up a little bit, as you see when I turn it over. So I like the way that had dried in, and I'm just going to do much the same on this side. Again, just spraying it out a bit. And yeah, I've gone right in with the heat tool there. I didn't spread it out much. Again, it just creates nice patterns. And I do like the fact that, you know, you can't quite tell what you're going to get with this. So there's still some wet stuff on my table, so as I lay the card down, it's obviously picking bits up here and there, but I'm really liking that, really liking it. And although I had some thoughts for the prompt for this week, I decided I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm going to add some white Posca pen. It's a pin type 0.7mm size, so it's quite fine, and this is a Unipin fine liner in a 0.8. And I'm also going to add some little bits of gold paint. I did think about silver. This almost had a kind of space look to me, and I thought would silver be better, but I want to keep with the gold. I'm really enjoying using the gold. So, you know, if you want a prompt for this week, I'm just going to suggest that you really just have a play about with things, but if you want something more specific, then I'm going to say add little details of black and white pen to whatever you create. So I didn't actually put an awful lot on it. Here I'm coming in now with the gold. I've got a very fine brush here. The gold was starting to get a little bit dry in my palette, so I did add a tiny bit of water, but I didn't want it too watery. So you'll see just very fine lines, and I'm just kind of going along some of the edges of the ink lines. So just some tiny little details. Quite difficult to see from the distance, but it's amazing how they look, and I'm just loving looking at that piece there and seeing all the detail and the texture on it, you know. So that's from prints already done with colour then added, and it's amazing how you just get that kind of texture in there. So sorry, I was right in, and I've kind of gone a little bit off screen there, but there we go, I realised. So making some of the lines just a tiny bit thicker, but most of them quite thin. This is one of the things you could go on and put in lots of lines I felt that kind of less was more on this occasion. I just wanted one or two here and there. But you could put in lots and lots. So I think I now come in with the black pen, yep. And again, I'm just going to make tiny little marks here, not looking to do anything big and bold. It's more about those tiny little bits of detail that sometimes are only picked up when you look quite closely at something. And you know, I kind of wouldn't be without my black and white pens for adding bits of detail to things. Obviously you could use paint as well. There's nothing to stop that being done with a white acrylic paint and a black acrylic paint. So I'm now on to the other side. Of the two sides, I prefer this side, and I think I don't know why, it just, to me it hung better together. And this is going to be my front page, but again, just going in, and to me those look a little bit like stars. I'm not trying to make it a kind of space looking thing, but yeah, the white dots just seem to go with it. In with the black pen again, and again just making some little marks, varying them just a little bit, you know, nothing too difficult. You know, mark making like this is the easiest thing. One thing I've noticed though, and it's a strange thing, I count them when I'm putting them on. Do you do that? You know, if you're putting dots onto something, do you count them? And it's not that I'm looking to put down a specific number, I just can't help myself counting. So I don't know if that's just me and one of my little quirks, or if that's something other people do. Let me know. Talking about letting me know, I do read all the comments as they come in. I'm still way behind. Last week kind of knocked me off track a little bit, but yeah, I will get caught up. Also, this past week, my lesson has been up in the One Badass Art Journal 2024 online course that I am a guest artist in, and I'll leave details of that below as well. So yeah, my lesson was up this week, and I was thoroughly enjoying seeing the things that the other participants were doing, using my lesson as inspiration. So as I say, I'll leave a link to that below as well. And it's a great Facebook group there that Tiare's set up for that particular online workshop. So coming in with the gold stencil, or with the stencil, which I'm going to add gold to, it's just still the Arteza gold. I don't want to put on too much this week. Again, it's a case of less is more. You can see just a tiny bit in the background there, and obviously I've got the little strokes of gold throughout the page anyway, so I didn't feel that I needed an awful lot. I think at this point I'd go on to the back of the card again just to put it down there first. I have to again admit that sometimes I've been a little bit clumsy or heavy-handed, however you want to put it, and I've kind of smudged the gold a few times when I've turned it over. So started on the back. If it's going to smudge, I'd rather it was on the back than on the front. Okay, on the front now, and I've put a little bit more gold into my palette, and just looking at which bits of the stencil I want to use. Still not going in too thick, but just a little bit more I think than I used on the other side. I really just want this to enhance the page rather than to change it dramatically. And you can see that there. And of course I'm going to go completely round the edge with that. Now this week I haven't attached my page. I want to let it dry thoroughly. When I put paint round the edge like that, it does take a little bit of time to dry because it's kind of in little blobs. although it forms a skin on the top, underneath can still be damp, and as I say, there's a few times I've kind of smudged it, so I'll attach this and the previous weeks at the start of next week. So that's basically it for this week. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Do take care, and I will be back on Monday. Bye for now.